Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Raw Knuckles podcast. We'd really appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, and share with a friend.
When I stepped on the ice, I never backed down, and I never stayed down.
And I was vicious, and I was malicious, and I don't care.
He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town. That'll be a suspension. That'll be a fine. Alive, I'm 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 alive.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Knuckles here. Yeah, my favorite segment, Ask Me Anything. My man, Matthew Kempter. What's up, Matthew? We're going to talk to the fans again today. Love to answer their questions and have some input to what's going on with the podcast. So let's fire away.
Yeah, after the last episode, we got a lot of responses. So we're going to break down some of the questions that you guys submitted here. And the first question is going to be about the current NHL and the Montreal Canadiens. So what is one thing you would do to change the Habs' direction? Can't use the coach because I think they finally made a good hire. From David Caruso.
Oh, what would I do? I'd stay on the path they're on. Listen, I think by the way they've drafted recently, Slafkovsky, first overall, but there was a lot of talk about taking Shane Wright, this and that. Listen, it shocked a lot of people, but one of the things the Canadians had to do is get a bigger team and a more talented team, stronger up the middle. Slafkovsky was probably the shot across the bow that alerted everybody that, listen, this is a direction that this team has to go. I'm a firm believer in having big, talented hockey teams. I think a lot of guys that played this game and understand this game know that. It takes certainly talent, don't get me wrong, but in the playoffs, you have to have a big, strong team that is able to withstand the rigors of round after round of highly intense physical play. And you got to be able to be standing at the end. And you look at the teams who've done it. All the teams that end up winning the Stanley Cup, you might have a couple of smaller players on that team that are insulated well. But overall, you have to have a big, talented team. And I think the Canadians are on that path.
Now, what kind of additions or moves do the Habs need to make to keep like the direction going the same way? Like if you were in charge of everything, what would you add to the roster for next season?
Well, I'm looking at staying to my plan, and that is building through the draft. He's made some good moves to prop this team up. Not only prop this team up this year, and you wouldn't know it by, being, 28th overall or 27th overall in the league, but he made some good moves during the draft and bringing Kirby Dach in, right? There's a great move by this general manager. They got bigger. They got more talented. I would stick to the plan. They have a lot of bodies that they've already drafted that are going to show up to training camp here next year. Jaden Struble from Northeastern, big D-man, one of the guys who, again, he's not going to be a top 4 guy, probably a bottom pairing D, but one of those guys you need that plays physical, is durable, and can be standing at the end. He did have a few injury problems in college, but just stuff like that. I would stay the path, build through the draft, and when and if you always have your radar out there for that certain type of player you would like to add to your lineup that you could fit in there and it could help you in the process of changing the direction of this organization. And I'm sure Ken Hughes and Jeff Gorton are on that. They're constantly looking at ways to improve and build this organization in the proper fashion. And if trades come up with free agent signings, you have to, but man, they got to stick to the plan of building through the draft.
Now, this next question is a big topic around the NHL in the last couple of weeks. What do you think of James Reimer standing for himself, the LGBTQ narrative, and would you or did you ever sleep with a transgender woman?
Well, that's none of anybody's business if I slept with a transgender woman or not. No, I never did. But listen, if guys have their own personal beliefs, and they feel as though they don't want to take part in something like that. I totally get it. There are certainly people take umbrage to being forced to do certain things in their lives, and everybody's, oh, just do it. It's a team thing to do. Listen, some people are strong in their values, and they don't want to do that, and I don't think they should be forced. And listen, there's a lot of controversy surrounding this. Certainly, NHL wants to be inclusive, and I get all that, but I often wonder, if some guys just do it because they don't want to make waves, but they think otherwise. So there are a few guys that just refuse to do it, and you have to respect them and what they stand for. You may not like it, but listen, that's life. I mean, not everybody's going to agree with you all the time, and not everybody's going to jump in line when they say jump in line.
Now, if you're a Bettman, do you like take it away? Do you make a change to it? How do you change that?
That's up to the league, but you take it away. I think it should be left up to each team. Obviously, if you want to have a pride night, then go ahead and have it. If you want to maybe take that, when I say risk of an organization having to deal with something that may not be a good PR move for them. Really, you look at Chicago, they decided not to do it. Why? Here's an organization who's had that controversy recently, and they probably want no part of it. So it's a touchy subject, but again, I'll go back. I'm old school. Politics and sports were never supposed to come together. They're supposed to be separate, and now we see it every day. I just think, I feel as though politics should be kept out of sports.
Now, do you think Gurianov will be offered a 2-year contract from the Habs, from Richard Tuttle?
But yeah, possibly. Listen, I think they made the move to get this guy. I think there's more upside than having Dadonov here. I think he's certainly a guy that he has some size, he has some skill. They're going to certainly look at the salary cap. If they say it's going to go up $1 million, whatever, if they can fit him in where they feel he can be a good addition for this team, and I think they will. They're going to sign him, I would think.
So these next set of questions are from your playing days and then your childhood and your younger years. So this question's from David Meyer. He says, I assume you were a Bruins fan growing up. Did you follow John Wensink? Which player taught you the most just by watching on TV? In the late 70s, was there a guy that showed you how to be the elite professional that you were?
John Wensink, yes. I was a Bruins fan, yes. I followed all them guys. The guy I looked up to most was Bobby Orr, obviously. So he's the guy that really captured my interest in the game of hockey and the Bruins. I loved the way they played. I loved the physicality. I loved their toughness. O'Reilly. John McKenzie back in the day, not the biggest guy, but tough as nails. They had a really tough team, and I loved watching them. Everything Bruins. So, but Bobby Orr, that's the guy. And I loved Terry O'Reilly, and then end up playing against him for all those years and fighting him quite a few times. It was a little odd when you're out there fighting one of your heroes, one of the guys or mentors you looked up to. So, I was a Bruins fan. And listen, if the Canadians get knocked out of the playoffs or they don't make the playoffs like this year and the Bruins are in there, I played for them. The hometown team, I like to see them do well, to be honest with you. This year, the Habs, obviously, where they are and where the Bruins are, it's kind of a bummer that they could be breaking the all-time record that the Canadians had back in the 70s. But you know what? Listen, this team is really something, this Boston Bruins team, and they got to beware of the first round. That's all I'll say.
Do you think they're the favorite to win the title this year, or do you think another team could pull it out?
Yeah, anybody can win. The first round is such a a difficult round to get through. And that's going to be, I think, I won't say their biggest hurdle, but that's going to be a huge one, that first round of the playoffs. Because, boy, teams in the past who won the President's Trophy have all, I think the last, I don't know how many, 11 years, 12 years, have not progressed to the conference final. So they lost in the first round or the second round. So that they have to be keenly aware of, and I'm sure they are. But this team, top to bottom, is solid. They have depth, too. Guys go out of the lineup, other guys jump in and get the job done. So I would say they're the odds-on favorite right now.
This question is from True Grit. He said he was a big fan of Mike Peluso, Randy McKay, and Ken Daneyko. Workhorses that every team needs. How were they personally?
Listen, Palooka the Duca, I loved him. He was there, protected his teammates. Certainly a heart and soul type of guy, emotional guy. Randy McKay, same thing. Man, that kid played hard every night, showed up, worked his butt off, could score goals, go to the net, work the puck in the corners, fight if he had to. Awesome. Daneyko the same. He was the consummate New Jersey Devil. Tough guy in the back end. Not overly blessed with talent, but boy, he showed up every night and gave all he had. And yeah, those three guys, man, what New Jersey Devils they were. And they were part of that success there. There's no question about it. A core part of that success. If you love your pet like I love my St. Bernard Adele, you'll want to feed them a balanced, biologically appropriate raw diet. The reason I've chosen Formula Raw is because all blends of their food are locally sourced and they consist of exclusively human-grade meat and organs, as well as fruits and vegetables. And all products used are hormone and antibiotic-free. So like I said, if you love your pet like I love Adele, you'll choose Formula Raw. Make sure you go to formularaw.com and use the promo code RAWNUX at checkout to receive 10% off your first order. That's RAWNUX, RAWKNUX.
Now, this next question from Paul Millette is about a story that I've heard you tell a couple times, and it's one of my favorite stories that you've ever told. So he said, "Hi, Knuckles, was it you that fired a puck at Paul Baxter while in the penalty box? I'm sure it was you. If I'm not, sorry. But if I'm right, that was hilarious. Love your show. Take care. Have a nice day."
Don't be sorry, because I'm not. I hit Paul Baxter pretty hard behind the net in Montreal, just to the side of the net, behind the net, down below the goal line, against the boards. And he gave me an elbow, and I give him a little chop in the back of the leg. And he came back up with a stick, and he got me in the eye. So I dropped my gloves, and I tried to fight him. He turtled on me. Crazy as it may seem, I went off balance and tried to kick him, like make it look like it was off balance, which was crazy. But that intensity of the moment, I was pretty angry. Anyway, we got to the penalty box. And he's telling me, "I'm going to give it to you in the other eye. You wait, I'll give it to you in the other eye." And I was just sitting there incensed. And I looked down, and there was a bucket of pucks frozen, on ice, the big CH on them. And I looked down, and I had ripped his helmet off when he was turtling. And I grabbed the puck, and I stood up, and I just rifled it right off his head. And down he went. And the linesman at the time, I think it was Ron Asseltine, said, "What are you, crazy?" I said, "Yeah, I am crazy." And they kicked me out of the game, and I'm out of the game. And he goes into the infirmary to get stitched, which is right across from my locker room. And I heard him come down the hall, and he got in on the table and was starting to get stitched. And I come busting through the door, and security all grabbed me, and Dr. Mulder was looking at me like, and guy I absolutely love, Dr. Mulder. And he said, "What are you doing?" I'm trying to get him. And Baxter, apparently the story goes, because I met Paul afterwards and we talked about it, but the security all grabbed me, took me out of the room. I went back in the locker room, and Baxter got up off the table, and Doc said, "Just relax, sit down, I'll stitch." He said, No, hey, I got something to do. he got up and he grabbed his stick off the floor, and he come over and he laid it right next to him. He said, "Go ahead now, you can stitch me up. If he comes back through that fucking door, you're going to be stitching him up too." So it's funny how we talked about it years later and had a laugh. But yeah, some crazy days. I mean, some crazy stories from back in the day, old time hockey. The shit that happened, just you never see that today.
Now, you said you guys talked about it years later and had a laugh about it. Did he have any hard feelings from the incident?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's funny. Not at all. You know, it was cool.
So you played one regular season game in March and one playoff game in April, your rookie season against Hartford and Gordie Howe. What was that like? Any stories from those two games?
Just to be on the ice with him. And you know what? I knew Gordie Howe, right? And I can't believe I'm on the same ice with him. And it's actually not famous picture, but I got a great picture here on the wall that I had taken the puck from Gordie in the corner and took off and started skating up the ice with it. And you see me skating away, and you see his stick up by my head. And people ask for that sometimes. I sign them, and I say whoever to Matthew, he's lucky he missed, and I sign it. But Gordie Howe, I remember Pierre LaRouche at the time was playing for the Canadians, and he went up to him in the warm-up and asked him if he could have a stick, and Gordie Howe gave him a signed stick. And I was like, I'm thinking, I wouldn't do that. But looking back, I wish I did, but back, I was just a young kid. The last thing I was going to do was go up to Mr. Hockey or anybody else and say, hey, can I get an autograph stick? But LaRouche did it.
And in that playoff game, you had an altercation with Pat Boutette. Do you remember what happened in the altercation?
Not
or what
even.
led up to it?
I can't. I remember another fight I had with Boutette in Montreal, and I had high-sticked him and cut him. He had to get stitched, and we were standing there on a face-off, and he was a tough little bugger, and he's lined up next to me, and he's just staring at me. I mean, just ready to, play rough with him. He wanted to play rough. We'll play rough. He was pissed I caught him. And the puck dropped, and I'm thinking that nothing's going to happen. The puck dropped. As soon as the puck dropped, he suckered me with his glove on and rung my bell. Well, I went after him, and he's a little smaller than me, but he grabbed me and had me hugging me real tight. So I was so frustrated. I had him up against the boards, and I was trying to punch him. I couldn't. And I ripped his helmet off. And when I got his helmet off, I just put my fingers right through his hair, and I ripped as hard as I could. And it's funny, when you see it on the replay, his hair is up after they finally – John D'Amico, the ref, the linesman, is looking back at I think it was Andy Van Hallemon was the referee, and he said, he's pulling his hair. You can see the linesman saying it. And Boutette came up. His hair was all over the place. And I had – I got back in the locker room. I still had hair between my fingers. I ripped it right out. His head must have been killing him that night, all night. So he had stitches, and he had a few less follicles of hair after that game. No question about it.
Now, Stanley Aloha, man, says that there's no doubt in his mind that you're the Rocky of hockey. He said you came into a league where there are not a lot of American players. You're drafted by the Canadians when they had one of the greatest teams in history. What was inside of you that got you over the top and got you to the NHL? It's not just fighting, yeah. I'm sure.
No, it wasn't. And listen, fighting opened the door for me, and it opened it wide. And when I got there, it was, well, what are you going to do with it? Are you just going to be a fighter, or are you going to be a hockey player? And I wanted to do both. I never forgot my job, what I had to do on the ice. I knew how to do it well. I knew when to do it, how to do it. I screwed up sometimes. There's no question about it. I cost my team at times, but I think I did my team more good than bad. And, I was driven to become a full-time NHL player. And I did that. I did that with the help of the organization, because they weren't just content with me being a guy who could drop my gloves and fight and just sit on the bench. They wanted me to partake. They wanted to be able to put me on the ice. They helped me do that. And I owe certainly a debt of gratitude to my two line mates who suffered through the growing pains of learning to play the game the proper way. And Bob Gainey and Guy Carbonneau, 2 Hall of Famers who I played with, helped me do that. They helped me in so many ways. And we had a great line. Ken Linsman said it to me, one of the best, if not the best, checking line in the history of the game, which I think was a huge compliment from Linsman. Some people may dismiss that and say, but we had a hell of a line. We could score, we could check, we were tough, we hit, we could fight. Well, I could fight. Those 2 guys didn't fight at all, really, and they didn't have to. But it was, but for me, my biggest accomplishment, I say it all the time, was that I became a full-time NHL player. And I was driven to do that, and I had the help to do it.
Now, do you think playing at Northeastern and not being allowed to fight in college played a part in you growing as a hockey player, not just as a fighter too?
Now, my growth came more when I got here to the NHL, when I got to the Canadiens, and I had direction. I had coaches that worked on things with me that helped me improve my game, and then coaches that put me in situations where I was able to apply what I learned and put it to good use in a game. And those whether it was skating, handling the puck, passing the puck, shooting the puck, all those things, all these fundamental skills that I worked on every day with a coaching staff that was deeply committed to wanting to see guys improve and do well and contribute to the success of the hockey team. Those experiences for me were invaluable.
Jimmy Fingers says that he was the happiest kid in the world when you got to wear the Bruins uniform. So what was that experience like for you? And did you embrace being a Bruin? And how did it feel to be embraced by the Boston fans after they hated you for so long?
It felt great to be embraced by the fans. First night I came back, it was awesome. It felt odd being a Boston Bruin. It would have been so different if I started there. It was my career started there. I was near the end of my career. I'm glad I had the opportunity to experience it, but it wasn't. The first year was better, the beginning. Then I broke my ankle, misery. Second year was difficult on me, and I retired soon after. I came back to Montreal, but I'm glad I had the opportunity to do that, play with, guys I played against all these years and beat them, and Cam Neely and Ray Bourque, and just have that opportunity to play along such great players and Hall of Famers. It was a great experience. I think it came too late, though, for me.
Now, do you wish it came earlier? Because I know you always say that you never wanted to leave Montreal.
Listen, I don't look back and say, I wish, like I could have played for the Bruins instead of the Canadiens. No. I never wanted to leave or play for anybody else after I became a Montreal Canadian. So, it's just the way it was. I mean, if I was drafted by the Bruins and I went there, I would have hated the Canadiens much as I hated the Bruins when I played. Believe me.
So these next set of questions are from more about your personal life and hobbies. So the first question is from Colby, and said, do you have any health issues from your troubled years?
My troubled years, health issues, some, but most of my physical health issues came from playing the game, So, that's about it. The pain, the arthritis and stuff like that I deal with on a daily basis. But I do it in a healthy way now instead of unhealthy way.
How's your golf game?
My golf game is just okay. I'm like a 15 handicap. I'm a pretty good putter. I'm working on my short game. I'm trying to get the slice corrected. All those things I've never taken a lesson, and I really should. But I love the game of golf. I love getting out with guys that 3 other guys and having a good day, shooting the shit, joking around, little competition. I can get around the golf course okay, but you always want to be better, right? Yeah. And what's it take to be better? Practice, practice, practice. And that I don't do enough.
So what's your handicap?
15, I said. Yep.
That's pretty good.
Yep.
So, and this is another question from David Meyer, but same topic. Playing golf, do you have a regular foursome? And who would you have in a regular foursome if distance was not an issue?
If distance, what?
If you can get anybody in the world for a foursome.
Wow.
Because I know you just played in the
I played with
Jack
some
Nicklaus.
regular guys. Yeah. My friend John Kane, his brother Dalton, good players. Friend of mine here, I play with them over at Kanawaki or in Summerlee up here in Montreal. Kanawaki's on the reservation where they live. Very good friends, and I play with them quite a bit. The game itself, the four guys I would play with, other than my regular group, I guess I would like to play with. Who would I like to play with? Putin. No. Chelios.
He seems like he'd be very fun to golf with.
Yeah. Chelios. Tom Brady. And let me think, who could that other guy be? Who do I like? Oh, John Kennedy, Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana.
Now you played in the...
Because we would piss ourselves laughing. He is so funny.
You played in the Jack Nicklaus tournament a couple of weekends ago. Who was your foursome in that?
Friends from Montreal, my good friend Jim Barria, and we ended up playing with Aaron Wise, 2018 Rookie of the Year in the PGA Tour. So he was an awesome guy, a lot of fun. Had the opportunity to meet Fowler, a few guys. Ricky Fowler, you see him on TV, the outfit, the whole thing. I really liked him as a person. He was really so open, spoke. He was just a nice guy. We talked to him before a little bit. Then we crossed paths on the course. And he was just, he treated everybody so well. He was awesome. And you look at him, and he's not a big guy, right? But boy, he got up and hit the ball. When he throw the ball, I'm like, what the hell? How do you get like that? And I know how you get like that. Some of it's God-given, natural talent, and then practice. But it's a whole different thing. And it was cool.
So there's two questions left here. One of them is, which Habs player or coach would you like to come on the show that has not yet?
Habs player or coach? I think, and we will have him, Juraj Slavkovsky. I definitely want to have this kid. Incredible what he's done in his life, his young life. Playing the NHL at 18 years old is insanity. What is even crazier is that this kid was living in Finland on his own at 14 years old in an apartment. And talk about, like, how does that happen? He lived on his own. I'm dying to ask him, like, cooking and all that. He would always call his mother. Mom, if he had a question, he said, I call my mother. She would help. I've heard him speak about that. And to me, that's incredible. And I think I was 14 years old. You kidding me? I was a juvenile delinquent. And living on my own, I would have burned the house down. So, impressive kid. And I certainly, we're going to have him. He'll be on with us, no question.
I mean, I can speak to that. I'm a 22-year-old college student. I struggle to live on my own. I don't make any of my own food. So I couldn't imagine doing what he's doing across the world and then having to deal with the schedule of just like practice, games, everything like that would be a lot.
Yeah, he did it.
So this is the last question here, and it's, why did you replace the Lafleur jersey with an Orr jersey on the Raw Knuckles podcast? Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on Bobby Orr, just wondering.
Well, if you look, I replaced the Orr one too with Yankee Boy. A Yankee Boy T-shirt is in reference to my coach Claude Urel. My first year, one of the guys that really helped me work on those skills of the game I was talking about. He used to call me Yankee Boy. Let's go, Yankee Boy. We got to get on the heist. Let's go, Yankee Boy. Come on, my Yankee Boy. So he called me Yankee Boy all the time, and I loved it. You know, it was almost like I was the teacher's pet with him. He just loved how I came to work every day. He had fun doing it. He helped Rod Langway when Rod Langway won, Norris Trophy winning defenseman who came into the league as a young kid out of college. And Claude worked with him too. And he loved guys that came into the rink and would just, work hard every day and be there and be available to him as a coach. Some guys had to be there, but some guys ho-hummed it at times. Every drill I did, he drilled it in to me to work and improve and really work at it. So, yeah, that's Yankee Boy. But Lafleur, Orr's a guy, my hero growing up. Lafleur, I absolutely love him. Great teammate, great person. I absolutely loved Guy Lafleur. And, I switch out the jerseys. I had Ray Bork on there when we had Porky Borky on, and I'll continue to switch them out. Depends, the sun comes up. What I'll do, who we put up there. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Raw Knuckles podcast. We'd really appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, and share with a friend.